Hey YouTube, it's Emmanuel from TechInsomnia, and today I want to talk about the LC2i Pro. I've been running it in my car for the last 6 months now, and I just wanted to make this video to potentially offer possible tips and tricks on how to get the most out of your LC2i Pro. Now, the first thing I want to say is if you're experiencing any type of problems, if the sound isn't clear, if you just feel like you're not getting the signal or the sound, the output that you should be, absolute first thing, contact AudioControl. They have an incredible service department. It's an incredible company. I've had multiple interactions with the service team, and on every single occasion, regardless of how many messages back and forth, it's nothing short of one of the best customer service experiences I've ever had in car audio when it comes to car audio products. So definitely first and foremost, contact AudioControl, let them know what the issue is that you're having, and see if they can help you troubleshoot it from there. Now, the first tip and trick, just a little background information. I've been actually running the LC2i, the original, in my car since 2016. I have a little bit of experience with the LC2i, with different amplifiers, different receivers, different head units, different subwoofers, speakers, and overall, it's an incredible product. But the one underlining factor that always is, I feel like, the most important thing when it comes to getting the most out of your LC2i Pro is your signal wire. Now, you want to make sure if you're tapping a signal source, so like let's say you're tapping the rear speakers or you're tapping a direct connection from the head unit, you want to make sure, or let's say you're tapping an internal amplifier, a manufacturer amplifier that is in your car, let's say under the seat, in the trunk, wherever it might be. You want to make sure that your connection is good. You want to make sure that you have solid connection for that tap, and you want to use good quality speaker wire. I can't stress this enough. One thing that I noticed in my current car, which is a Lexus, is a 2021, I was tapping the Mark Levinson amplifier under my driver's side seat, and I was getting a little bit of distortion upon the first time I tapped the wire. What I did is I went back and I actually wrapped the terminal connectors that I used to tap the subwoofer output, and I wrapped them in electrical tape. I still wasn't getting the right sound, so I took it a step further and I wrapped the entire wire all the way leading backwards to my aftermarket, or to the LC2i Pro first. The signal wire that goes from the Mark Levinson amplifier to my LC2i Pro was completely wrapped in electrical tape. That was basically the end of my issue of having noise and signal in the wire. So very, very important is the signal wire, what quality wire you choose, and if there's a way that you can potentially insulate it, the terminals that connect to it, that can sometimes give you a better signal, sometimes definitely give you a better output and better outcome for your LC2i Pro. The second thing I want to talk about is AccuBASS, or Boost. Now, AccuBASS is an incredible piece of technology that has been with the LC2i from the beginning. It really is designed for what it's designed for. So if you have bass roll-off in a OEM head unit, it's mostly OEM, I feel like it's mostly manufacturer head units that will have the bass roll-off as the speaker volume increases to protect their equipment, which is not always the best of quality. It can give you some good results, but I want to talk about how AccuBASS, in my experience, and remember, everything in this video is just based on my personal experience when it comes to car audio, what I've experienced over the years doing installations, working on my own cars, friends' cars, family's cars. AccuBASS is still Boost. So Boost is something that you're taking the signal and you're basically modifying the signal. Now, if you want to get the best out of your equipment, sometimes it can almost create the illusion that Boost or AccuBASS is more. But what it's really doing is it's expanding that waveform. So it's basically stretching it out, it's modifying it. I wouldn't say amplifying, I would say the word exactly what we use, boost. So it's boosting it. Now, the cleaner the signal that you can send to your LC2i Pro, and the cleaner the signal outputting from the LC2i Pro to your amplifier, the better result you're going to get. Now, in a lot of installations and a lot of setups, there's only so far you can go. But if at all possible, I recommend before AccuBASS, I mean, obviously try it out and see if it works for you, see how it sounds, and always go by your ear. At the end of the day, don't listen to me, don't listen to what anybody else would say. If you feel like it's incredible and if you feel like it's improved your system beyond anything that you've experienced, stick with it. If it works for you, stick with it. But I would recommend, if you feel like you're not getting enough out of it, maybe consider upgrading the amplifier and upgrading your subwoofers or speakers in general. Always the cleaner the signal, the better the result, in my experience, that you're going to get out of it. And if the signal needs to be amplified and it's already being outputted from the LC2i in a distorted way, chances are distortion is going to be amplified as well. And that's most of the time, most case scenario, that's usually what happens. Now, in my personal experience, I like to at least have my bass at 0. So through any head unit that you're using, usually it's -6, 0, and then it can go anywhere to negative or +6, right? So you could have 0 bass, +1, +2. I like to usually keep the bass at 0, so I'm not missing anything, but I'm not boosting anything. I know there's a lot of debate online as to whether bass level on your head unit is considered boost. I think it is. I mean, if you want to send a clean signal to the LC2i and then have that signal processed and sent cleanly to the amplifier so that the amplifier can do its job, it's better if the signal that's being sent to the LC2i is at 0 or even negative of a decibel. Like, I like, in my Lexus right now, -1 is really sending the cleanest information possible to that LC2i Pro. And I'm running Fosgates, so with a Clarion amplifier, and it is one of the most incredible sounding systems I think I've ever had in my entire life. Actually, maybe the W6 in the high output box was a little bit crazier, but I mean, it depends, right? Like, tastes will vary, right? But I mean, for what it is and for the sound that's coming out of them, it's one of the best systems I think I've ever had. Okay, number 3, to go off topic a little bit, number 3 is the maximized light on the LC2i Pro. You want to veer away from this as much as possible. You want to stay away from that maximized light. That maximized light is indicating distortion. I think we need to really kind of look at AudioControl for what it is and look at the quality of their product and follow their instructions. And the instructions say that when you see that maximized light at 3/4 of full volume, you want to back off from the level output, whether it's the main or the bass output of the RCAs from the LC2i. It does indicate that, yeah, you want to get the most, you want to keep that signal coming out as best as you can. But I mean, if you can lower it even past 3/4 of full volume towards full volume, you're not seeing that yellow light, but the sound is still sounding really, really good, then obviously that's better for the equipment. One thing I notice about the LC2i Pro, the signal, its ability to process signal in comparison to the LC2i is out of this world. Like, I mean, same volume, similar level output, same amplifiers. Like, my amplifier right now, I'm literally running the exact same model amplifier and I'm producing a very similar sound with the same music, and like, my amplifier is not getting hot at all. So definitely the signal output that the LC2i Pro is able to achieve in comparison to the LC2i is significantly cleaner. It's a cleaner output signal, 100%. Number 4 is source quality. So your head unit, whether you're using USB, Bluetooth, OEM head unit, whether you're using an aftermarket head unit, a Pioneer, Alpine, or even an Android deck. Sometimes to get the best signal and the best result out of the LC2i Pro, it's our source signal that we're feeding into the LC2i that we need to improve. If possible, if you can upgrade the head unit, I always recommend that first, because remember, everything starts with signal, especially in car audio. It's not boost, it's not watts, it's not RMS, it's signal. The cleaner the signal, the more predominant the signal being sent to your equipment, the better signal that your equipment has to work with. If we feed it the best, it can give us the best. And I mean, Alpine is, in my experience, one of the best. JVC makes an amazing head unit. I've run something like the PX5 Android deck, 8-core. I mean, that's a Qualcomm computer-grade sound processor. So I mean, the signal that I was getting out of that in my Civic, like nothing can touch that in my opinion, because that's computer sound processing grade level technology. There's a lot of technology behind processing the sound before it even gets to the processor, the LC2i Pro. So it's almost like you're feeding it the best so that it can give you the best. So definitely something to consider. If you're running an OEM head unit, something in like my car that very hard to change the head unit, try changing your source. If you're running off USB, try an iPhone. And if an iPhone doesn't work via a connection via Bluetooth, try something like, right now I'm running the OnePlus 8T, which has an incredible sound processor in that phone. And I think it's Bluetooth 5.1. If you are connecting via Bluetooth and you're not getting a really good sound, try to see what is the limit of Bluetooth standard that your car can accept. Maybe get a device that matches. For example, I noticed a really good sound coming out of, let's say, my iPhone 11, which was Bluetooth 5.0, but then a significantly better sound coming out of my OnePlus 8T, which is Bluetooth 5.1. I'm very curious to see what Bluetooth 5.2 will sound like in the car. So it's all a little bit of trial and error. It's all experimentation. Try different output sources and see what you like and what's giving you the best volume, the best signal, the best clarity, the best range of sound frequencies to output out of your equipment. Number 5 is your input terminal connections. So your wire gauge for the LC2i or LC2i Pro, your fuse. I like to follow the instructions. I like to use a 1 amp fuse for the power for my LC2i Pro. I usually power and ground it from the amp. I like to use the gauge that they recommend. I try not to cheap out and use a quality wire. If I can go maybe a little gauge up from that, sometimes I will. But depending on the application, you always want to select good wires. Like very, like don't cheap out on the wiring, because how the unit is powered will determine how it can perform. So we always want to make sure that we're using the recommended amps for the power and our connections are very clean. Try to shave the wires. Try to look at the space from the terminal input for, let's say, the ground, the power. Try to see how much exact space in millimeters that the wire is showing and shave it to that point so that it's a very clean inserted connection. And then when you tighten those terminals, tighten them. I think it's the micro Phillips that tightens it. Tighten them very nicely, but not over tight. And just make sure that everything is cleanly wired and installed, and to ensure you're getting the right power and the best out of the product. Now, the sixth and final tip is your RCAs. I can't stress this enough. There's a lot of debate on the internet where people will say that, you know, RCA is an RCA. Not true. The only company that I trust when it comes to RCAs is Monster. Monster Cable makes the best RCAs on the planet, period. There's a lot of fancy RCAs. I'm not sure if they're more made towards sound production or a studio environment, but when it comes to car audio, I've always had the best result with Monster RCAs. And I mean, if a lot of this that I've mentioned in this video has already been covered, or you've already attempted a lot of this, I would maybe even just try first and foremost, switching out your RCAs for, let's say, Monster Cables, Monster RCAs, and see if that gives you a better signal. I'll give you an example. I was running because I have my LC2i mounted right beside my amplifier. I was running a 1.5 foot RCA, which looked to be very good quality. It had good quality terminals, gold connectors. It looked solid, but I think it was capped at around 30 hertz. I wasn't really getting anything under 30. You know, that's another topic that's up for debate, but I feel like, you know, 20 to 30 is the sauce, is where the sweet spot is. What, you know, most people who love bass don't know that that's really what they're looking for, is that 30, maybe 30, below 30. As soon as I switched out those RCAs for Monsters, I was getting the 20. They wasn't outputting that very low, that thunder. that 20 to 30 hertz. And another thing too, you want to make sure if you're seeking out the best possible sound, you want to make sure that you have good quality RCAs. If it's not monster, definitely go for something. And I mean, try out different cables too. If you're lucky enough to be purchasing from a supplier that knows you from a lot of time and previous purchases, and they have different types of RCAs that are out of the packaging, don't be lazy. Go to the car, try them out. Like, you know, this is a lot of trial and error. And when it comes to the installation is one thing, but when it comes to producing and achieving that sound that when you turn up the volume, you start to unknowingly smile and you're really enjoying it, that it takes a lot of trial and error. It takes a lot of time, depending on what amplifier you have, a lot of pulling over and going to the trunk or the rear seat and making adjustments, and then close everything up and jump back in the car and drive around a little bit more and listen to different songs that you're familiar with, and then pull over again and make another adjustment. It depends. Or if you're lucky enough to have one of those new amplifiers with a built-in DSP with technology that's capable of connecting to your smartphone, you can literally sit and remain in the driver's seat and make adjustments pulled over as you go. I feel like it's still a process. So that's maybe, I would say, the seventh thing is just be patient. Try different things. Try all of these suggestions that I've made in this video, and then try some more. Don't give up. If it's equipment in your setup that you feel like it needs to be changed, change it and see how it goes. But don't ever give up, because there's something to be said about an incredible car audio setup, especially for car audio lovers. Once you achieve it, it just makes driving, it just makes being in the car such an incredible experience that once achieved was worth all the time, effort, stress, struggle, mayhem that you had to go through. So maybe I'd say that is the seventh tip, is just don't give up and try different things, be patient, and hopefully we can all get better car audio and get to that level where we're finally satisfied. But I doubt it, because usually once you achieve one level, that's the stepping stone to another. And it's okay. We're constantly growing. We're constantly improving. We're constantly learning. Thanks a lot for watching my video on the LC2i Pro and LC2i tips and tricks to potentially, hopefully, get the most out of your equipment. Really appreciate all the support, everyone on YouTube. This is an incredible community. I love how we can come on and kind of share our experience and knowledge that we've acquired through experience, and hopefully help each other achieve a better car audio setup, output, and experience. Thanks a lot for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe if you guys found value, and stay tuned for more tech and car audio related videos in the future. Take care. Bye-bye.